Welcome back to the Flying K. In this video I'm finishing up the repairs to the instrument panel on my old Taylorcraft. Did a little fabricating, a little wiring, and a little machining, and some airbrushing. I use the airbrush to touch up the paint on the instrument panel. And while I was waiting for some paint to dry, I even shortened up a oil line going to my oil pressure gauge. Engine oil pressure gauge was a little bit too long. I even shortened that up and made a little clip on how I do that. So stay tuned and enjoy. Alright, let's try this again with an SD card in the GoPro. Back in the shop, and we're gonna make some progress here. Get this guy back in the air. So, see, I left off and I was fabricating this panel over here with the USB port and the two headphone jacks to go in there. There'll be an open area for something else down the road, possibly. Maybe possibly down the road I'd actually make this back into a glove box and kind of fit something somewhere else. But for now, I'm just gonna make a cover plate and mount the USB port and the headphone jacks in there. Pretty simple project. Need to get it done. Get this painted. Get my tack panel painted, and then come in and clean this instrument panel up and do some touch-ups on some of the broken paint. So anyways, hoping tonight to get done is to get these holes drilled for the USB and the jacks, and I can start getting this stuff primed up and painted. These are jacks. I noticed that they're not, well, I guess that one is. Maybe they are. Thought I was noticing that they're not shielded, so I'm worried about getting a little noise, some RF possibly off the USB port. But I think if I keep them separated, keep the wires separated behind the panel, I think we'll be all right. Won't run them right together. But something like that, or like that maybe. Circuit breaker and the USB. Grab the yoke real quick, see what kind of clearance we have. Alright, so the yoke right there. Put this up in the corner there, maybe, and circuit breaker right below it. And it'll be out here most of the time anyway, somewhere around there. But that'll be clear of any wires potentially coming off of that. That'll work. I like that. Should work good. We'll go with that. So I've marked out on the back of this the outline of the hole, so should be able to place this on here, be able to mark it and be clear of everything behind, any obstructions behind it. Nice big open space behind there, so that's really cool. That and the circuit breaker, and then the two jacks. That did not drill a straight hole. Or I did not drill a straight hole. Got a little bit off. I'm gonna have to use the die grinder now. Doggone it. Oh. I'll get it as big as I can get it, I guess. Gotta go just a little bigger. So, I think I don't know what I did wrong with the unibit, but I did not go through this very straight. At least it's not in line with my circle anyhow. So it's right to the line here, so I'll take a die grinder and finish making that kind of round. Get that rounded out. Go over to the vise, clamp this thing up. Perfect. Sweet. Alright, now drill a hole for the circuit breaker, and then 2 other holes for the jacks. Alright, circuit breaker time. So, man, do I put it right there or put it right beside it? So if I put it underneath, if another component goes in, I can put the circuit breaker below it, kind of like that. Or, I don't know. It probably doesn't really matter. And if I did it again or something, if I change something, I can make another panel fairly easy. I think I'm going to put the circuit breaker beside it, and then that'll keep fairly good distance between the power and whatever this thing might be doing and the headphone jacks. Yeah, I like that. I think that's what we're gonna do. So now, just have to still rolling. All right, we're that much farther along tonight. Simple little projects. I love them. They don't have to be super complicated and still be rewarding to get something done. So that's pretty good. Out in the shop, and I'm an hour more ahead than I would have been if I would have just stayed inside and watched YouTube all night. So, bammo. Like it. Tomorrow, I'll work on getting the nut plates finished up behind the panel. Get that buttoned up. See how far we get there, and maybe run some wires to the USB plug from the main bus over here. So, yeah, we'll see how far we can get. Alright, already got the nut plate holes drilled. Just gonna take and deburr them. Actually got a countersink though, so I don't even know why I'm messing with trying to deburr that. Let's see if I can spin this on the back side. Try to deburr these holes a little bit. Alright, back in the hangar tonight, and brought along a little help. Got the bear with me. Come hang out in the shop, keep me company tonight. So, tonight's program is to get these panels mounted up. I got them painted. I got everything mounted. And I need to get them wired up. So I'm going to go ahead and wire the USB port in to its circuit breaker, and then I'm going to run the wires inside the cockpit here. Got to run from the bus on this side, run a wire over to the panel over here, and a ground. I have a, let me get a light on here. Let me turn this thing on. What in the world? Oh, there it is. Okay, I got a bus bar, a grounding bus bar, and with a ground running to the side of the battery. So I've been trying to run everything over to the bus bar instead of just running it to airframe ground. It's just cleaner, causes less problems down the line, and all the cool kids are doing it nowadays. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'll run a ground and a power from this side over to the other side, get this stuff powered up. Well, one step forward, two steps back. I made a mistake. So I messed up the panel here a little bit. When I built the panel, I always had the made it to fit the tachometer. My idea was I wanted to keep it flush with the rest of the panel and get rid of the crappy old panel that was in the middle of here. What I failed to do when I made the panel was to make sure that the 90-degree angle drive that connects to the back of the tach, that connects to the tach cable that runs out to the engine, was attached to the tachometer when I had the panel installed. So when I went to install it, it hits the tank, the fuel tank that's right up here in the nose. So my cool, awesome idea of having a flush panel isn't really going to work with this tachometer. So I came up with a solution. I'm not really happy with it. It's just the way it's going to have to be. I'll take you over to Workbench to show you what I did. So with the drive hooked to the back of the tachometer, it hits the fuel tank. So I needed to space the tachometer out in front of the panel, which I'm not real happy about because it looks ugly, but it is what it is, and I'm going to use what I have. The distance when it hits the tank is about 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to give it a 1/2 inch, so I got an 1/8 inch of play behind the panel between the drive and whatnot. And I fabricated a spacer. Alright, that fits pretty good. It's gonna look hideous, but tight. Yeah, okay. On a lathe to hold the tack, and you just need to put some holes in there. I didn't like the way this looked, so I made a recessed lip so that the ears of the tack mount fit inside of it, and then I machined a bezel to go over it. So try to dress it up a little bit, make it a little better. I think I'm going to probably still paint this flat black, scuff it up with some Scotch-Brite, and prime and paint that so it matches the rest of the panel. But that's the way it's going to be captured, and then that way it has enough room behind the panel. Drive hooked up and spaced out, so that's the way it'll look. I got to get my mounting holes drilled and some countersunk screws in there. It does bring it a little bit farther out, I guess. You know, if I was worried that somehow my view was going to be blocked with the GPS there on the tach, so I guess it kind of brings it out a little bit. But I mean, to me it looks like I should paint this thing yellow and blue and make it a minion face or something. But whatever, we'll get there. But yeah, that's the way it's going to mount. That's what I come up with. It's pretty clean and should work. So now I'm going to get to drilling some holes. So I took my my spacer that I made for the tachometer and took it over the drill press and lightened it up, put some lightning holes in it. It took about 40 grams off of it, so it's a little bit lighter than it was. Removed some weight. Still kind of hideous, but is what it is. And then bezel. So what I need to do next is I'm going to scuff it all up, and I'm gonna paint it flat black, even though the bezel part of it looks kind of cool. Aluminum. I think I'm going to flatten it all out with some instrument panel paint there and get her all flat black. So that's the next project. Get her all scuffed up and painted, primed and painted, and we can get it installed and be done. Well, while I'm waiting for my primer to dry, I think I'm going to tackle another little project that needs to get done on here that I have been putting off and need to get done. This oil pressure line comes off the engine here, runs through the firewall, comes in and it's through the firewall and is way too long. Goes up to the gauge here. I need to shorten this guy up. This is no bueno. I need to fix this. Doesn't need to be near this long. So I'm gonna take it loose at the engine, pull it through the firewall to where there's a little bit of play, you know, a little bit of give, but not this much. And I'll take the hose out, cut the end off, and put on a new, or shorten it up, put the end back on, and put it back on the airplane. Get that one checked off the list. All right, cut this stand off. Made that before I realized that I needed to make the hose longer. Make another one of those. Save my little rubber piece. Now, let's get this oil line loose. Boom. This should, the other thing with a long oil line is it takes that much longer for oil pressure, especially if the engine's been sitting for a while, for the oil pressure to get to the gauge. In the airlines, we actually will put hydraulic fluid in this part of the oil line, and then turn the fitting down so that hydraulic fluid can't wind up back in the engine. But the hydraulic fluid, when it's really cold, the 5606 specifically, will flow much quicker at startup, so you get your indication quicker that your engine's got oil pressure. So I'm gonna pop under the panel here. Let's see what this looks like now. Oh yeah, that's more gooder. That's better. That's a lot better. Yeah. Yeah, that might need to be, probably need to make a standoff. Another standoff. Just hold the oil line over there against the. All right, I got the hose in the vise. I'm going to use my cutoff wheels. The best I've found for cutting these off pretty cleanly and quickly. It's a steel braided line. It's overkill for what it's for. This is actually a high pressure hose, but it was what was in the airplane. It's still flexible, really flexible. It's in good shape, and I'm just going to reuse it. Originally, it probably had a rigid copper line, maybe a short run of some kind of a rubber brake hose or something off of a car, back when these were originally built. But this is what was on it. I'm going to reuse it. I know how to do these ends, and I'll kind of walk through how I do them or how it's done. Been doing them for a long time, over 20 years this way. So like I said, I'll use the cutoff wheel to cut it off, and then I'll clean it up, kind of deburr the lip that's on the inside of the rubber, just so that the mandrel and everything starts easy. I'll go over that, and then actually I'll probably blow it out after I cut it to get if there's any debris that kind of winds up in the end here, just rubber and some stainless. Blow that all out so it's clean, put it together, blow it out again, and then we'll go and install it. Yeah, so let's get started. quick. Makes a little bit of smoke. If I had a bunch of them to do, I would probably think about putting a dust mask or an M95 on, but it's not too bad. Cuts it off real cleanly, real square, but leaves just a little bit of like a metal burr in there. I'll take a knife. I didn't grab that. I need to go grab it and kind of clean that out. I'll blow that out, trim up the sheathing a little bit, and we will get the other end off here and put it on that end. So this is a mandrel. This is like absolutely something you have to be able to make these hoses. I need to go grab the wrenches. I forgot that part. Got my wrenches. So you run the mandrel in and you dog it down into the B-nut like you're tightening a hose. And what that does is it allows you to back out the inner portion of this fitting, and you'll see what it looks like when I get it apart, if you're not familiar with A-end hose fittings. That's how it comes apart. That's the tip of the mandrel. It's there. Now the collar, or the collet, or the ferrule, or whatever you want to call it, goes on the hose. It's a reverse thread, so normally I would go this way to loosen it, but I have to go reverse to get it off the hose. And that comes off, and that's what makes up your high pressure hose fitting. What it is the center part of this is threaded. Your fitting threads in there into it, and as it screws in there, it has a taper, and it's threaded. The same threads that go through here grab the inside of the hose and keep threading itself into the hose, and the hose expands between the small part, the centerpiece, and the inside wall of this fitting, and it just squeezes together as you tighten it down, and it just makes a really good tight seal. Different than, say, like a tractor crimped on hose fitting or something like that. This way you can replace these hoses in the field or you know, at the airlines, and you can build these things up on the fly. You can buy this in bulk, and you know, we've been doing it for years that way. It just, yeah, it's something you learn how to do in A&P school and just never stop doing it. So now I need to clean this up just a little bit, and all I'm doing is just taking a very fine edge off of the inside of this hose, just real easy, just to make that ferrule, that fitting, and that mandrel slide in here easy, and to take off just the bit that's kind of holding on in there. You're not taking a big chunk out of here. It's just a deburr, basically, that the edge of the hose on the inside. Not taking a big chunk out of it. Okay. Now, lost my jaw. I'm going to take this over to the compressor and blow this out into the garbage. So there's probably some oil, some gunk that's going to come out of this thing. So, alright, I got it all blown out. It's nice and clean. So now we need to put our collar back on, and remember, now usually you would turn it clockwise to tighten, but to get it on there, turn it counterclockwise. And sometimes she can be a little bit of a booger to get on there, but most of the time this one screws on pretty easy. That feels like it's in the hole. Yep. So it's all the way up to the bottom in there. So now I'm going to clamp this back in the vise to hold that fitting. This has got some little bit of lube on it. I like spraying it with just a little bit of lube so it slides in that hose pretty easy. Let me grab just a little bit of engine oil real quick. There we go. A little bit of engine oil there. Now, it can be kind of a booger to get this thing started. And I learned a trick. You used to have to, you know, have a wrench push down and try to turn at the same time to force this thing into that hose. And you kind of got to watch that you don't spin as you tighten this up. You don't push the hose out. But I found this little trick here a little while ago using an impact wrench on this thing, and I'm able to put some pressure on it and turn at the same time. Bingo. If I had known this years ago, it would have saved me a lot of time over the years. That is just slick how well that works. Yeah, it's crazy. I think it needs to go just a little bit more. Okay, now taking back this off, take the mandrel back out, boom, just put a hose fitting on a hose, shortened it up, made it the right length. Ammo. Like it. So I'll blow it out again and then we'll go install it on the airplane. All right, well, we got our hose reinstalled back on the airplane, got the standoff put back. Nice. Got room to move. Goes back under through the firewall, under the panel, and all nice and tidy. I made another standoff in here to clear the yoke so it doesn't hit the hose. Yeah, another simple, easy little fix done and out of the way. So I like it. On to more projects. Oh, I also got this stuff painted. Primed and painted, so hopefully that'll be dry by tomorrow and we can finish up the panel in here. Still need to touch it up. I was able to get rid of the old placards or labels. It was just like an old label maker. That stuff was stuck on there. I finally was able to soften it to get it to absorb some oil, some ACF 50. I just let it soak and sit on there for about a day and it kind of absorbed in there, and then I took a plastic razor blade and was able just to peel it off. So I'll come in and clean that up a little more. I'll have to remake all the labels and placards in here. And I'm still planning to come in and touch up the aluminum around here, clean that up a little bit, make it look just a little better. So, making progress. Anyhow. Alright, I got the paint dried on the spacer and the little bezel ring, so it's time to get the tachometer finally mounted in the panel in this thing and get that little project done and out of my hair. For being what it is, I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. I think that's going to be okay. So let's go get it installed in the panel. She's a hoopty. I'm going to take some acrylic clean, paper towel, put some gloves on. I'm going to wipe down that instrument panel now, clean that black up, and then the areas where there's bare aluminum showing, I'm going to go in with a brush and kind of touch that up. It's going to be about the best I'm going to do with that right now. So that's what I'm going to hit next, just get that little project done and see if we can't clean up that panel just a little bit. Alright, I changed my mind. I'm not going to use a brush. I'm going to use my airbrush. I think I can control just how much goes on, and it'll go on a little more evenly. I can very little overspray. That's pretty cool. I don't know if the camera's getting it. I'll try and hold the camera and brush at the same time here. So that's just air coming out, and then I rock back on my handle a little bit and I can just feather the amount of paint coming out of this thing. That's pretty cool. I'm liking that a lot. super happy with the way the panel turned out. That airbrush is so, you can just dial that thing in and just get it right down teeny, spreads the paint real nice, no brush strokes. It's pretty slick for, especially like I said, when you're doing a sheet metal repair and you got a bunch of fresh rivets in there and on a painted panel, and you go back and touch it up. You can just take that airbrush and go right around each one with the paint, and it really dresses it up nice. But yeah, I mean, it's a night and day difference on this panel, so that'll be good. I'm happy with that. We're gonna roll with it. So on to the next project. Sweet.